back to another fun episode of Thrive Live. Today, we are honored and we have guest speaker, Dr. Shayna Peter. She is a functional naturopathic medical doctor, holistic dermatology specialist, and licensed dietitian, nutritionist who has helped hundreds who have tried everything for their skin problems and have been left feeling frustrated, helpless, and hopeless. She is the founder of Well Ahead Chicago, a functional medicine practice offering health consulting and educational resources to help people upgrade their skin health and vitality. Dr. Peter is the author of the newly released book, It's Not Just Acne, and has been published in the Journal of American Academy of Dermatology, Dermworld, and been featured in numerous outlets, including Insider, the Dr. Axe Show, Chicago Woman Magazine, and Best of Chicago. So Dr. Peter, thank you so much for coming on. We are very excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited as well.
Awesome. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about detoxifying the skin and cleansing the skin from the inside. Let's talk about why this is important. Why should we even have this discussion?
Yeah, this was my idea, and I really felt like we should tackle this topic because I just feel like across the board with skin, we're always being conditioned to think about it from a topical standpoint. No matter where we look, like with skin, we're always starting topically. We're always thinking about skincare, and skincare is great. We definitely want to have a good skincare regimen in place, but so much of it starts on the inside. And I just don't feel like we're talking about that nearly enough. And obviously I see a lot of skin conditions in my practice, and it's like on some level we're starting to recognize that there's an internal cause, but it's like we still don't really believe that.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? It's like we
totally
still don't fully believe that. Yeah, so I mean, in my opinion, that's where we really need to be starting looking on the inside when we're talking about skin.
I agree. Address the inside before we see it, before it actually turns into dysfunction.
Yeah, absolutely. And so,
no, go for it.
Okay. So if we're talking about toxins, because that's obviously a broad term, and they're different. We all think of different things when we hear that word toxins, but if we're breaking it down, talking about environmental toxins, so things like heavy metals, pollution, plastics, pesticides, and produce. So if we think about environmental toxins, if we think about lifestyle toxins, so things like our dietary choices, skincare products that we're using, alcohol, medications, and then internal toxins. So if we're breaking them down into those three categories, so internal toxins, by that I'm referring to things like mold, bacterial overgrowth, parasites, and the toxins that they produce in our body. So if we're breaking our definition of toxins into those three categories, you and I both know, and any of our colleagues would agree, that any of those things are going to impact skin health.
Yep, 100%. Yep. And too often we're overlooking those, right?
Yeah.
We're not digging deep enough. We're not considering those, from skin to thyroid to, it's those toxins affect the body in so many ways.
Right. And then with skin conditions, whenever we're concerned a lot about our skin, we're going to be using a lot more products on our skin a lot of times. And that's not something that people are always cognizant of. So you could be, in a way, creating this vicious cycle where you're continuing to use these products on your skin that are not the cleanest ingredients, but they might be helping a little bit with the symptom that you're creating, and so that you're dealing with rather. And so it's like they're giving you that band-aid effect, giving you some relief, but in the long term, they're just adding to the problem even more. 'Cause
Yep.
with our skin, it's a barrier, but it's a weak barrier in a lot of ways, and a lot of those chemicals, they can get absorbed right into our bloodstream through the capillaries in our skin. So
Yeah, and too often we're not thinking about the cosmetics, the soaps, the shampoos, the
exactly,
conditioners. Our skin's a living organ, and whatever we
exactly,
touch, we're going to absorb.
exactly, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what are some of your favorite ways um, to detoxify the skin? I know we just talked about a lot of the causes.
Mhm.
Do you have any preferred favorite ways to go in and attack the detoxification? And of course, this is going to vary per person and what's going
Yeah.
on, but just more of a
Yeah.
discussion point for the listeners, because I know that question is going to be coming up of, okay,
Mhm.
cool. So we just talked about the causes of the toxins, but how would I go about detoxing?
Yeah, so I don't want to discount the topical side of things because that's still going to be important. So using skincare that helps to draw out impurities from the skin is still important. But from an internal standpoint of things, with detoxification, that's a complex process. And that's
I know.
it's like
I
a
was
whole
totally
other
priming you with that question.
yeah. So that's a complex question, and we could have like probably several different
Totally.
conversations about that. And with natural medicine becoming a lot more popular and more trendy, it's like we're talking about detoxification more, but still very much in a superficial, 7-day cleanse and reboot type of thing, when really that's great, to do something like that, but it's a starting point. It's very much a jump start. It would take far longer. We're talking like a 6 to 12 month and even beyond that maintenance to really do in-depth cellular detox to really draw out toxins.
Yeah.
So
We got into this a little in the debate last week with
uh,
another guest speaker, Dr. Latanza, on
uh,
detox. And also a really good point was brought up is like, we're living in toxins on a day-to-day basis. And so thinking of like detox once a year, we should be thinking about like, okay, what can I do consistently that's going to be
yeah,
helpful?
absolutely. And so I would say, for anyone, especially if you're starting out, you want to learn more about this and find out what things you can start doing on your own, is to really evaluate your lifestyle and dig into the lifestyle piece. Because again, so the question is never whether or not we're toxic. We live in a toxic
Yeah.
world. Our toxic load is at an all-time high. So it's never a question of whether or not we're toxic. Is our toxic burden beyond what our body can handle? Is it above the threshold that our body can handle? And then that's when we start seeing signs, when our body starts trying to speak to us and get us to pay attention.
Yep. The body gets overloaded. It can't adapt anymore. That's
Mhm.
when we'll start to see it expressing in dysfunction and skin
Mhm.
rashes, you
Exactly.
name it. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the lifestyle piece, again, that's going to be huge. So about taking inventory of your lifestyle, the things that you come into contact on a day-to-day basis, that are going to be sources of exposure to toxins. So some of our, biggest sources of exposure are going to be like our air, our water, our food, personal care products, plastics, cleaning products, dry cleaning. So evaluating what we're using in each of those areas of our life and seeing how we can reduce our toxin exposure.
Yep. And when I have another point to bring up too is,
Mhm.
and I bring it up because most of my clientele is actually in Los Angeles, and
Mhm.
they can't change the jet fuel that we detect in their urine or the gasolines.
Right.
It's amazing what we detect in there. And I think important point to bring up is that if we can't always change some of the toxins that we're getting exposed to without
Right.
upping our life and moving somewhere, which isn't always that doable.
Right.
But if we can unload the toxins that are controllable, like the plastics, are we picking a plastic, drinking out of a plastic container? Then as we unload those detox pathways, our genetics, our cells can actually now process the rocket fuel and the gasoline that we are getting, especially in all of my LA clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. Doing what we can to control the factors that we are exposed to, because again, you're absolutely right. So much of the toxins that we're exposed to, we have absolutely no control over. But also all we can control is our daily habits, and we can educate ourselves and be more cognizant.
Yep. What are you? So I know everyone's always asking for like clean skincare line. Do you have a preferred skincare line that you like that's, safe for topical use?
Yeah, so I do have a couple of skincare lines that I offer on my website. One is Epion's, the other is BioElements, and there's another one that I'm looking at bringing on that's more anti-aging technology. So with all of the skincare lines that I recommend, I heavily scrutinize the ingredients that they're using and the research behind the products that they're using. But with that being said, a great database that I like to educate people about is Skin Deep with Environmental Working Group. Yeah, I'm sure you're familiar
I
with that.
love EWG. Such a great resource.
They have a lot of great resources. So anytime you're in doubt about ingredients or a particular skincare line, they have a great database that people can refer to, where for a lot, there's hundreds of thousands of skincare products in there, and it'll actually give a score on the level of toxicity for all the products that they have in their database. And if there's a brand or a product that's not in there, you can look at the ingredients. So I recommend that too. Like, let's say you're using products that are from a smaller company that might not be part of their database. They have a great resource that you can look to for ingredients, to educate yourself about the ingredients, the research behind them, what's been found as far as the level of toxicity. So I love that database.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. They have great research for the skin, the Dirty Dozen, Clean 15 foods and pesticides and drinking water. Yeah. So for those who don't know about it, EWG.org, Environmental Working Group, is a fantastic resource for environmental toxins and also examples of how you can replace it. So let's talk about why detoxing is important from anti-aging standpoint.
Yeah. So from an anti-aging standpoint, so with anti-aging, especially when we're talking about skin, we kind of break it down into intrinsic factors and extrinsic factors. So the intrinsic being genetics. So the genetics, we can't control that, but there are all these other extrinsic factors that we can control. So some of the things that we started to talk about, pollution, nutrition, sun exposure, all of those things are involved in accelerating skin aging. And a lot of those things, they trigger inflammation as well on a cellular level. So inflammation is, our biggest driver as far as accelerating the aging process. And so that's going to have effects throughout our body, and it's obviously going to affect the health of our skin as well.
Yep. It's almost like the skin is a billboard for what's happening on the inside.
Yeah.
And so if we use the skin as a sign of saying, hey, our body is trying to say, hey, we need to help your cellular, your biochemistry, your detox.
Exactly. So with detoxification, we're reducing inflammation. For sure. Another side effect when we go through a detox too is reducing our blood sugar, and that's going to help with reducing inflammation as well. Having better blood sugar control, that's how I want to put it. And so with that, there's a direct correlation with blood sugar regulation and wrinkles. The
Yeah.
sugar, the excess sugar, glycosylation end products in our serum, they can actually attach to our collagen and elastin and break down the collagen so that we have more wrinkles and experience more premature aging. So that's a direct correlation there. But if we're talking about inflammation, things that trigger inflammation, so obviously those toxins that we talked about, so the environmental, the lifestyle, the internal toxins, all of those things can trigger inflammation, which is going to trigger aging, accelerate the aging process.
Yep. What are your favorite foods when it comes to detoxification? Because that can be sometimes very simple for people to, well, simple or challenging. It's one of the two. It's never quite great. It's always challenging or it's easy.
Yeah, so I do have some top foods, but with that being said, nutrient dense whole foods as a rule. That's, the foundation of everything, because we're going to need those nutrients to run our detox pathways. Detoxification takes a lot of energy. So we have to make sure that our diet, and part of that is supplementation too, making sure that we're getting enough nutrients through our diet and through our supplement regimen to support those detoxification pathways. So with that being said, obviously a lot of plants, foods that are high in fiber. So that can be a reason why a lot of people struggle and run into roadblocks when they're doing a detoxification, because they're just not getting enough fiber into their diet. And that's like a huge shift that they have to make, with their diet and their lifestyle, because that's what's going to help not only just keep their bowels moving so that they can excrete the toxins that are being pulled into the bowel for excretion, but also helping to bind a lot of those toxins too, so that they're not getting reabsorbed into the bloodstream. And along with that, when we're talking about skin, so sometimes when people are going through a detoxification protocol, whether they have a skin condition or not, they might have some skin flare-ups. And so that can be a sign a lot of times, going back to the fiber, going back to their drainage pathways not being open and flowing enough for them to be able to excrete those toxins. So they get backed up, through our other detox pathways, one of them being our skin. So foods high in fiber are going to be huge. Foods that are anti-inflammatory. So we want to, give our immune system a break, fan that flame, incorporate foods that are going to be anti-inflammatory. So any detoxification diet that you'll see is going to have you removing gluten, foods like gluten and dairy, that are going to trigger more inflammation, foods that are high in refined sugar or just high in sugar in general. So as a general rule, you're going to be eliminating foods in those three categories if you're going to be doing a proper detox. Definitely dark leafy green vegetables, cruciferous vegetables are going to be a great addition. High in the indoles and the isothionates that are shown in research to have to support healthy estrogen metabolism and really have those anti-carcinogenic properties, which is going to be important for longevity, part of anti-aging. And we're in Breast Cancer Awareness Month. That's a big a big preventative measure in terms of breast cancer prevention, making detoxification practices part of your lifestyle and supporting healthy estrogen metabolism. And so that's something that I don't think is talked about enough. I don't want to get off onto a soapbox about that. But I don't think that it's talked about enough.
I agree. Yeah.
So we always talk about early detection, and not true prevention, not primary prevention. The conversation is usually about early detection. Let's wait until you have it and catch it early, but not really giving people enough strategies to truly prevent it. So
I think that's a similar thing across just within our within medicine, is that too often we're just talking about early detection with whatever cardiovascular disease or strokes or dementia or breast cancer. And then we should be having a conversation about, okay, let's have a conversation about prevention and making that the focus, so that we don't, because by the time that these things show up, it's already been there for a while.
Yeah, it's a late stage disease process at that point. Yeah. So I would wholeheartedly agree with that. It's a whole completely different mindset shift that we have to make, and that, is a mind shift for people that are looking into functional medicine, is that we're really looking at prevention and we're really looking at optimizing function and not early detection.
Yes. 100% agree. Awesome. Was there anything else you'd like to tell us about skin health?
Like what ideas do you have?
Sorry.
Do you have any other topics that
I think we did a good job of hitting and really making an emphasis on the importance of looking inside and not just necessarily, I mean, sometimes we have to suppress, the irritation on the skin, but it's how important it is to actually go and look underneath the skin and stop it from the inside, and the importance of detoxing the skin and how that helps the anti-aging. Dr. Peter has a great cleanse and reset program. I will have links for that directly to her website, to her Instagram, and to her program. So if anyone is interested in connecting with Dr. Peter, that will be at the end screen. And she is a wealth of information, and she has a book out, so go get it. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. This was wonderful. It was a great discussion, and we appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate you too.
All right. Bye, everyone.